Hello, I'm Reverend Ruth Van Lillian. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of the Emerald Coast. We are a covenantal community founded on loving kindness and a common devotion to our free faith. We recognize all the earth as sacred ground, and we welcome each other into this virtual space. We especially welcome those visiting with us today. We are so glad you're here. We invite you to check out our website and our Facebook page to learn more about us. We hope to touch hearts, teach minds, challenge spirits, and comfort souls. May you find refreshment and restoration in our service today.
All Souls Chalice Lighting by Viola Abbott. As we light this chalice and fully embrace the sacred space created here this morning, please hold in your hearts the Unitarian Universalist principle, which calls upon us to respect the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. Today we remember those who share this earth with us no longer. We bear witness to their lives and the roles they have played in ours. We pay homage to and make stronger that web which connects us all.
Abide with me, fast falls the eventide. The darkness deepens, still with me abide. When other helpers fail and comforts flee, help of the helpless, oh, abide with me. I fear no foe, with thee at hand to bliss. Ills have no weight, and 'tis no bitterness. Where is death's sting? Where, grave, thy victory? I triumph still if thou abide with me.
Good morning, everyone. This is Amy again, only today for our story, I Bought a Friend. This is Luisali, and she's going to read part of this story to you because part of it is in Spanish and part of it is in English. So we're going to read the story to you together. This is a story about the Day of the Dead, and it's a remembrance ceremony that takes place in Mexico every year. And it's not to be scary, although there are a lot of skeletons and things around, like on Halloween. But the idea is to remember all the people in your life that you loved and have lost. So now I'm going to share the screen. And this is the book we're going to read together. So I'll say it in English. This is called Citlali and the Day of the Dead.
Citlali y el Día de Muertos. El Día de Muertos ya casi está aquí, exclamó el maestro con alegría. La escuela estaba llena de emoción.
The Day of the Dead is almost here, the teacher exclaimed with delight. The school was full of excitement.
Citlali estaba también feliz. Su clase estaba a cargo de la ofrenda escolar. A Citlali le encantaban las ofrendas del Día de Muertos, con sus flores coloridas, los retratos y las velas. Este año, todos tenían que llevar algo para honrar a un familiar que ya no se encontraba con ellos.
Citlali was happy too. Her class was in charge of the school ofrenda. Citlali loved the Day of the Dead altars with their bright flowers, pictures, and candles. This year, everyone had to bring something to honor a family member who was no longer with them.
Aquella noche, en la merienda, mamá se dio cuenta de que su hija estaba preocupada. ¿Qué te pasa, Estrellita?, preguntó. Estoy preocupada por la ofrenda escolar, Citlali le explicó. No sé qué llevar para honrar a mamá Elena. Extrañaba a su abuela todos los días y la ofrenda era una oportunidad para demostrar cómo se sentía.
That evening at supper, Mama noticed that her daughter was troubled. What's wrong, little star? She asked. I'm worried about the school ofrenda, Citlali explained. I don't know what to bring to honor Mama Elena. She missed her grandmother every day, and the ofrenda was a chance to show how she felt.
Toma tu chocolate y pan dulce, su mamá sonrió. Y esta noche, al mirar las estrellas, algo se te ocurrirá.
Have some hot chocolate and sweetbread, her mother smiled. And tonight, when you look up at the stars, you will think of something.
A la mañana siguiente, mientras Citlali ayudaba a regar las matas, mamá preguntó, ¿te mandaron buenas ideas las estrellas anoche?
The next morning, as Citlali helped water the plants, Mama asked, did the stars give you any good ideas last night?
Nada. Aún no sé qué quiero llevar a la escuela este lunes. Citlali estaba frustrada. Eso le hizo extrañar a mamá Elena aún más. Su abuela podía mejorarlo todo, con una sonrisa y una taza de delicioso chocolate caliente. Quizás se te ocurra algo en el mercado cuando vayamos a conseguir las cosas para nuestra ofrenda. Su mamá intentó animarla.
Nothing. I still don't know what I want to take to school on Monday. Citlali was frustrated. It made her miss Mama Elena even more. Her grandmother could make anything better with a smile and a mug of delicious hot chocolate. Maybe you'll get an idea at the market when we go to get things for our own ofrenda, her mother tried to cheer her up.
Mamá dejó que Citlali escogiera el papel picado para su ofrenda. Escogió catrinas en amarillo brillante y morado, puesto que mamá Elena adoraba las alegres calacas del sombrero.
Mama let Citlali choose the paper banners for their ofrenda. She picked bright yellow and purple cachinas since Mama Elena loved the lady skeletons dressed in hats.
La próxima parada era la favorita de Citlali, la dulcería. Escogió una calaverita colorida de chocolate para mamá Elena. Era el primer año que la familia la incluía en la ofrenda y a mamá Elena le encantaba el chocolate.
Their next stop was Sidlali's favorite, the candy shop. She picked a colorful chocolate skull for Mama Elena. This was the first year that the family would include her in the ofrenda, and Mama Elena loved chocolate.
De nuevo, en casa, mamá y Citlali se pusieron a trabajar. Montaron su ofrenda en la mesa del comedor y colocaron el papel picado. Sobre el mantel blanco de algodón pusieron las velas, las flores y el pan de muerto. En lo que mamá iba por los retratos de los abuelos y bisabuelos, Citlali esparció semepushchil.
Back home, Mama and Sidlali got to work. They set up their ofrenda on the dining room table and hung the banners. On the white cotton tablecloth, they set out the candles, flowers, and pan de muerto. While Mama gathered pictures of her grandparents and great-grandparents, Sidlali scattered marigolds.
Mamá colocó los retratos de la ofrenda, como cada año. Citlali puso las etiquetas en las calveritas. Luego nombró a cada uno de sus queridos familiares. Papá Ricardo, abuelo Mariana, abuela Rocío, abuelo Miguel y abuelo Juan. Y para mamá Elena, una calaverita de chocolate, por todo el chocolate que compartió conmigo.
Mama placed the pictures on the ofrenda. Like every year, Citlali put name tags on the sugar skulls. She then called out the name of each beloved family member. Papa Ricardo, Abuela Mariana, Abuelo Rocio, Abuelo Miguel, and Abuelo Juan. And for Mama Elena, a chocolate skull for all the chocolate that she shared with me.
El siguiente día era Mérida en domingo. Las calles del centro se cerraron al tráfico y la gran plaza en la ciudad de Mérida se convirtió en un enorme festival con música y baile. La familia de Citlali siempre iba junta. Papá y Citlali compraron raspados cuando ella vio a su amigo Fernando. ¡Hola, Citlali!, la saludó Fernando. ¿Veniste a buscar algo para la ofrenda escolar? Luego, llevo este cuadrito para honrar a mi tío abuelo Mario. Fue un artista muy conocido. ¡Qué buena idea!, le dijo Citlali. A mamá Elena le gustaban las pinturas, pensó, pero una pintura no mostraría lo que la hacía tan especial. Tengo que pensar en otra cosa.
The next day was Merida on Domingo. The streets were closed to traffic, and the town square in the city of Merida became one huge festival with music and dancing. Citlali's family always went together. Papa and Citlali were getting snow cones when she saw her friend Fernando. Hola, Citlali, Fernando greeted her. Did you come to find something for the school ofrenda? I'm bringing a painting to honor my great uncle Mario. He was a famous artist. What a great idea, Citlali told him. Mama Elena liked paintings, she thought. But painting won't show what made her so special. I need to think of something else.
Esa noche, Citlali miró al cielo. Las estrellas le recordaron a mamá Elena y el amor especial que tenían la una por la otra. Pasaron muchas noches en la mesa de la cocina hablando y bebiendo chocolate caliente.
That night, Citlali looked up at the sky. The stars reminded her of Mama Elena and the special love they had for each other. They spent many evenings at the kitchen table talking and drinking hot chocolate.
A través de la ventana pudo ver a mamá preparando chocolate caliente, justo como lo hacía mamá Elena. ¡Eso es!, dijo, corrió adentro.
Through the window, she could see Mama preparing the hot chocolate just the way Mama Elena had. That's it, she said. She ran inside.
Mamá, ya sé lo que más me gustaba de mamá Elena. Me gustaba sentarme aquí a platicar mientras preparaba el chocolate caliente. Así es, Citlali. Tú y mamá Elena se pasaban todas las noches en la cocina mientras que preparaba el chocolate. ¿Y sabes qué hacía tan delicioso su chocolate?
Mama, I know what I liked best about Mama Elena. I liked sitting here talking to her while she made hot chocolate. That's right, said Lolly. You and Mama Elena would spend every evening in the kitchen while she made hot chocolate. And do you know what made her hot chocolate so delicious?
El metate. Mamá le señaló una gran piedra plana y rectangular con 4 pequeñas patas que parecía una pequeña mesa. Encima había una larga y redonda piedra en forma de un rodillo. Citlali recordaba a mamá Elena usando estas herramientas antiguas, pero no había sentido curiosidad por ellas hasta ahora.
The metate. Mama pointed to a flat rectangular stone with 4 little legs that looked like a tiny table. On top was a long round stone shaped like a rolling pin. Citlali remembered Mama Elena using the old tools, but she had never been curious about them until now.
¿Para qué usas el metate? Preguntó Citlali.
What do you use the metate for? Citlali asked.
Ay, yo no lo uso, pero lo guardo porque tu abuela lo usaba y tu bisabuela antes que ella. Allí es donde molían las semillas de cacao para hacer el chocolate. ¿Hacían el chocolate? Citlali no lo podía creer.
Oh, I don't use it, but I keep it because your grandmother used it, and your great-grandmother before her. That's where they ground the cocoa beans to make chocolate. They made chocolate? Citlali couldn't believe it.
Así es, dijo mamá. Tu abuela molía las semillas de cacao en el metate utilizando esta piedra más chica. Es el metapilli. Lo tomó con ambas manos y lo talló contra el metate para enseñarle a Citlali.
That's right, Mama said. Your grandmother ground the cocoa beans on the metate using this smaller stone. Ita metapili. She held the stone in both hands and rubbed it against the metate to show Citlali.
Mamá, ya sé que voy a llevar a la escuela mañana para la ofrenda, dijo Citlali muy emocionada. Voy a llevar el metlapilli de mamá Elena y algunas semillas de cacao. La voy a honrar y amo a nuestra tradición familiar de hacer el mejor chocolate caliente. Citlali le dio a su mamá un gran abrazo.
Mama, I know what I'm going to take to school tomorrow for the ofrenda, Citlali cried excitedly. I'm going to take Mama Elena's metlapili and some cocoa beans. I'm going to honor her and our family tradition of making the best hot chocolate ever. Citlali gave her mother a huge hug. And we finished reading our story. And I thank you all for listening and thank my friend Luitelli for helping me. And we'll see you again another time.
Friends, as we consider the joys and the concerns in our community, let us spend a few moments of silence together, and I will close us with a few words adapted from George E. Odell. When we mourn and would be comforted, we need one another. When we are in trouble and afraid, when we are in despair, in temptation, and need to be recalled to our best selves again, we need one another. when we would accomplish some great purpose and cannot do it alone, we need one another. In our hour of success, when we look for someone to share our triumph, in our hour of defeat, when with encouragement we might endure and stand again, when death comes near and we need laughter amid tears and courage to face fear, we need one another. All our lives, through every day, in every hour, come what may, we need one another. Amen. Shalom. Blessed be.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live.
Unitarian Universalist congregations are financially supported by the voluntary generosity of members and friends. We all contribute to sustain the work of our beloved community. There are many ways to contribute. Of course, your presence is the most valued. Some of us are able to contribute time and talents, and most are also able to contribute financially. It's easy to do. During this time of virtual services, you can make your donation right on our website, UUFEC.com. Scroll down and click the new yellow donate button under the photo. It will take you to a donation page with a drop-down box. Choose whether you're making a general donation to the fellowship, donating to Share the Plate, or paying your pledge. Share the Plate funds are split between our fellowship and a local charity. For all of October, Share the Plate funds will be split with Sharing and Caring of Niceville, which helps meet the emergency needs of families. Of course, both members and friends, old and new, may also choose to send a check to UUFEC at the address on the slide. Please help us sustain our fellowship during this time of separation and need. In the words of Kristen Collins, we give to remind ourselves how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and sacred space. We give with a faith that together we have enough. Thank you for your generosity.
I love Halloween. Who doesn't love a little dressing up, a little play pretend, along with a little chill, a little thrill? I grew up on ghost stories and scary movies. I remember sitting in my mother's lap watching the old TV show Night Stalker back in the 1970s. She would whisper into my hair as she hugged me close, "Remember, it's not real. It's just pretend." Kids love to pretend in their play, exercising their imaginations. What kid doesn't love to put on a costume and go trick or treat? Earlier this month, we had a wonderfully fun and spooky Halloween party for our church families. We had trunk or treat with lots of candy and decorated cars. We had pizza, and crafts, and we watched The Nightmare Before Christmas. It was all in the church parking lot, kids in costumes running around. Oh, it was wonderful. We had 8 households represented and 16 kids, infant to teen. Now, there are some folk in our larger community who get very nervous about Halloween as something spiritually dangerous, a holiday celebrating evil and terror. I remember when I was a young Methodist country pastor having a conversation on this very topic with some lovely, earnest, conservative Christians. And they got things a little out of proportion. They were genuinely frightened by the talk, which was kind of trendy back then, that Halloween was a satanic holiday when evil people gather to say evil words and do evil deeds. And it was incumbent upon good Christians everywhere to avoid Halloween and condemn all such celebrations on October 31. You may laugh, but I'm really not exaggerating. My response went something like this. Halloween should be the second highest holy day in the Christian calendar after Easter. Before they could sputter too much, I added, Halloween is at its foundation an exercise in mocking death and all that frightens us. And Easter is the celebration of Jesus' resurrection from death and the divine promise of eternal life so that we need never be frightened again. So Halloween and Easter are really two sides of the same coin, right? A little less sputtering at this point, a lot of open mouths, because I am really good at spouting heresy. So Halloween is a marvelous day to face what frightens us. And I'd like to start with the biggest, baddest one of them all. What is the greatest mystery, the biggest unknown, the inevitable, unavoidable, and always unknowable event that awaits us all? My friends, I give you our greatest collective fear, death. Imagine, if you will, the traditional figure of death, the grim reaper, the hooded skeletal specter of our nightmares and haunted houses and B-horror movies. Every one of us will end up there one day. Every human being who has ever lived and ever will live will end up as nothing but bones and later dust. And as the words of the old Ash Wednesday blessing goes, remember that thou art dust, and to dust thou shalt return. How do we face this frightening, grisly reminder of our mortality? How do we cope with our fear that what we are and think and do will come to nothing one day, or possibly change into something unknown, which is also scary? Well, today, Halloween, we make fun of death. Imagine the Grim Reaper with a top hat, some oversized neon-rimmed glasses, and a blow tickler to toot. Tonight, many people will make fun of this thing that scares us. We will mock death, make fun of the Reaper, embrace laughter and silliness, and find comfort in such foolishness for a while. We shall impose upon death a holiday and breathe easier for now. Okay, whew, we got that big one out of the way. But there are plenty of other fears to consider. Turn on the news, and the political rhetoric will provide us a tidy list of things to be afraid of, beginning with each other. Then there's war, famine, death. Oh wait, we did that one. Pestilence, now known as COVID-19. and Russia, Afghanistan, North Korea, economic upheaval, environmental catastrophe, interracial, intergenerational, intersexual, identitational, conflicts. And for everyone else, it is a time of confusion, frustration, embarrassment, disgust, disbelief, mistrust, and nobody is sleeping well. Let's talk about personal fears. My parents were both born in 1928 and grew up during the very frightening period called the Great Depression. The specters of poverty, hunger, and homelessness hung over their lives every day. I don't think either of them ever missed a meal, but both grew up believing that you had better clean your plate because you don't know where your next meal is coming from. The fear of what may never happen occupies a lot of our time and energy, doesn't it? I believe those who think more tend to fear more. It is not accidental that ignorance is considered to be bliss. The more we know about what can happen, and sometimes does, the more we might worry ourselves to distraction. Every time he's late, was he in an accident? Every time she feels a strange lump, is it cancer? Robert Fulghum, a Unitarian Universalist author and minister, talks about the difference between a problem and an inconvenience. Recalling a summer job at a resort where he was served hot dogs and sauerkraut every day for weeks, he became outraged with youthful indignation at the injustice and was ready to foment a riot of one. The night manager, an elderly Jewish man, confronted him with these words, "You know what is wrong with you? You don't know the difference between a problem and an inconvenience." Fulghum remembers being startled into an epiphany as he considered these words from a man who had survived a Nazi death camp and probably found an unending supply of hot dogs and sauerkraut to be a dream come true. Consider Fulghum's advice for testing reality. A lump in the oatmeal, a lump in the throat, and a lump in the breast are not the same lump. I don't mean to make light of fear, and I know that a small concern for one person might be an enormous problem for another. Fear of losing a job may keep one person up at night, while fear of retirement may cause another to lose some Z's. Keeping all the bills paid on time may worry one, while another shuffles bill statements like cards every month, deciding which to pay, and keeps all carefully balanced just enough to keep the utilities on and the creditors from the door. For those of us who take the parenting path in life, having children introduces a whole new level of fear. A lot of things that used to scare us don't make us blink anymore. Robbery, fire, flood, mismatched shoes, bad breath, high school reunions. Nah, nothing else compares to the moment that someone at the hospital or the adoption office hands you a little warm bundle and smiles and says, "Here you go, this little one is all yours." Holy cow, what do I do now? What if I break it? No returns or exchanges. Fear of harm to one's child is common for most parents and accounts for a lot of graying hair. Those parents who actually face the serious injury or illness of their child can find themselves in a paralyzing nightmare. Give me Freddy Krueger or a herd of zombies any day. Most younger folk take for granted their health and they don't spend much time worrying about disease and mortality. Having passed the half-century mark, I can tell you that fears about my health and my husband's have certainly moved up on my list. As we age, we all begin to lose abilities, both physical and mental. The files of my mind begin to get mixed up. One minute I can't think of the name of a person I see every week at church, and the next minute something brings to mind the name of a girl I haven't seen since high school and didn't like very much then. Of course, our fears of aging are all too real at a time when science can keep us alive longer, but not necessarily in a condition to enjoy it. What about loss of control over one's body, one's living arrangements, one's finances? Who is afraid of these things? Years ago, an elderly friend of my mother's kept complaining to her son that her car wouldn't start. He told her not to worry, he would take care of it. Day after day, she went out to take a drive and tried unsuccessfully to start the car. Exasperated, she finally called a mechanic, and he came over to the house to fix it. When he lifted the hood, he discovered a note signed by her son, which read, "My mother has dementia and must not drive. If you fix this car, I will sue you for everything you've got." For most of us, our first comforter from fear was a parent. From our earliest trembling in the cold air and the bright light outside our mother's warm body, someone who cared, wrapped us up and snuggled us close and whispered and sang sweet words in our tiny ears. We learned that if we cried out, someone would come and take care of us and make it better. Good, conscientious parents also teach us to be afraid of things that can hurt us. Ovens, traffic, strange dogs, knives, and they teach us how to manage our fear so we can function and have full lives. They also have our backs and jump forward to protect us when it is needed so we know we do not face the world alone. Long after childhood, many of us counted on that parental support, and we have found ways to create support circles among other good people. This is one of the best ways to cope with fear. Find support. Seek family or friends or qualified strangers, depending on the source of the fear. Nothing is as frightening when we don't feel alone. Fear causes stress, which leads the body to release certain hormones, which may help in fight or flight, but are otherwise really detrimental and wreak havoc on our health. While we can all tell stories of unhealthy ways we've tried to cope with fear and stress, many of my stories take place in a Krispy Kreme shop. I think this topic warrants the mention of a few of the healthier options, such as eating more fresh fruits and vegetables, and moderate exercise, artistic and creative pursuits, whether we have talent or not, spending time outdoors, spending time with people who make you feel good, moderate entertainment, humor, laughter, intellectual stimulation, interaction with animals, meditation, observing moments of silence. Did you notice how many of those things you can do in church? Speaking of church, what are we afraid of here? Well, for a year and a half, you went without a minister and weathered a pandemic, which involved a lot of separation and unknown variables and making it up as you went along. And you kept hoping a new minister would answer your posting, and once you found me, you probably still felt anxious about what was going to happen next. And when are we going to reopen the building for Sunday services and other indoor activities? What if someone gets the COVID virus here and gets really sick or dies? But if we don't reopen soon, we fear that some of our people will drift away and not come back. Who would we be? How would we function? How would we continue our justice work? What if we couldn't pay our bills? What if our lovely church had to close? So now we're back to our friend, Mr. Reaper, and our fear of death. We're looking at the painful question of the life and death of this congregation. It is scary. I used to serve a UU church where the pews had come from a Universalist congregation that had closed decades earlier. In effect, it had died. I used to preach from that church's pulpit. The people who originally sat in those pews and spoke from that pulpit are long gone, dead and buried. All the ideas, the hopes, the liberal theology, the justice work and ministry, the children's laughter, the good meals shared, the songs sung, all that was that old Universalist church is gone. I'd like you to seriously consider this for a moment. One day, everyone watching this service will be gone. So, who will be sitting in the chairs and the pews in our building? Who will be doing the important work of this church in this area? Who will be the voice for liberal religion? Who will fight for the rights of the marginalized? Who will march for reproductive rights and other important justice causes? Who will teach the Unitarian Universalist principles? Now, if you just answered in your head something like, I don't know, what difference does it make? I won't be here. Then I need you to think again. The answer has everything to do with you and with all of us. What we do now, the plans we make, the structures we build, the staff we hire, the kids we teach, the outreach we make to the community, the services we provide, the stands we take. This will be the legacy upon which the church of 50 years from now will be built. So I ask again, who will be sitting here at UUFEC in 50 years? Don't we want this place to be full of optimistic, energetic, Unitarian, Universalist, full of ideas and questions and responses who want to make the world better? I sure do. Remember that no one currently active with UUFEC was here when it was gathered in 1958. Everyone who is a part of this fellowship today entered the community sometime in the middle of its life, and hopefully a long time from now, it will still be going strong when each of us leaves it. If the current political climate of this country has taught me anything, it is that fear is rampant across the land. And we need every UU out in their respective communities speaking calmly and emphatically of loving tolerance and productive diversity. So we must take courage now, in spite of our fears. You know, being brave doesn't mean we're not afraid. Courage is fear faced with determination. Courage is born out of fear. Courage is the insistence on facing what scares us, even though it scares us, and not letting it scare us away. So it's okay to feel afraid sometimes. Let us lean on each other and urge one another forward. Let us plan boldly for a future beyond ourselves. We are the fearful and we are the courageous. Death is taking a holiday today. Happy Halloween. Amen. Shalom. Blessed be.
We are marching in the light of love. 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 We are marching. We are marching. Woo! We are marching in the light of love. We are marching. We are marching, woo! We are marching in the light of love. We are singing 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 in the light of love. We are singing, woo! We are singing in the light of love. We are singing, woo! We are singing in the light of love.
More Than One Life by Lee Hubert. Lighting a candle is somewhat like the beginning of life. If that is true, then perhaps extinguishing a candle is like the ending of life. But death may not be the end of us. We live on in the memories of friends and loved ones. The influence we possessed in life works on, moving persons or causes forward. Let us not forget that most candles have more than one life, and so, perhaps, may we.
Siblings and kindred, there is certainly much to fear in the world, but there is also much to hope for. We have one another. Let us go together in this week, marching in the light of love. Amen. Shalom. Blessed be.